Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be part one of a bunch of updates. I'm going to break it up into the different chronic illness categories that I have. This specific one is going to be about my gastroparesis because it's kind of where I left off. So kind of bear with me. This is going to be completely unedited. So I will have speech problems, which I will explain why in this video. So just stay tuned. My gastroparesis journey started when I was about 14 years old. I'm 23 now. When I was 14, I started having a bunch of troubles with being nauseous and eating and just not feeling good at all. It took me quite a while to realize that something was truly wrong. I think when you're younger, you think, oh, it's just nervous stomach, because I did have a lot going on at that time, just starting high school and everything. I was just going through a lot. And once I started to notice something was wrong, I realized my weight was going down, and it was going down fast. So I had started to see a gastroenterologist when I was 14. I had an endoscopic procedure where they go in with the camera to kind of see. And he said that it was irritated, but he didn't see anything that would give him an answer. So I continued to see him. They put me on medicine for acid reflux, took that, and I had eventually stopped it. And by the time I was 16, I had decided to see another specialist, or another gastroenterologist specifically, to kind of help me out because it was continuously getting worse. It was becoming to the point where I was always in the ER because I was so dehydrated. I was always sick. I was never feeling good. And it was taking a toll on me, physically and emotionally. And it was taking a toll on my life in school. I started to see that gastroenterologist. He did endoscopic, he did tons of blood work and everything. And he had said that, again, he saw irritation, but it wasn't giving him an answer as to why I was feeling this way and why I wasn't getting any better from the medication that I was on. So he said, let's stop the medication, let's see what happens. I agreed, stop the medication. Still no difference, still feeling sick, still going to the ER. And he had said, okay, you know what, we need to send you out to UC Davis because they're more equipped to deal with what is wrong. Because on his end, he had an idea of what was wrong, but he didn't, I don't know how to word this. He didn't really know what exactly to do. So I made an appointment, got into Davis. By this time, I was about 17. Yeah, I believe I was about 17. And I saw her, and by the time I saw her, I was down to 95 pounds. Now, regular weight for me is anywhere between 100 to 105. Before this, I was very athletic. I was doing dance, karate, gymnastics, so I was always fit. And of course, that had to stop when I was getting sick because it's not easy to have an athletic life and be sick at the same time. At least it wasn't easy for me too. So I saw her and she said, yes, obviously something's wrong. You should be able to keep eating. You should be able to hold your food down. You shouldn't be in the ER constantly. So she did her tests and she said that she wanted to test out medications first to see what could possibly work best for me and what wouldn't work. So it kind of gave us an idea of what was going on. We tested out all the medicines that we could. Nothing was working. I wasn't gaining weight. I was still going to the ER because I was dehydrated. I wasn't feeling good. At this point, I had to stop going to school because I could not stay focused on everything that was going on in school. Luckily, towards the time of it getting extremely worse, it was the end of the school year. So I was like, okay, school's ending. I can come back next year. It'll give me all summer to get better. Or at least so I thought. So she had said, okay, there's one test that I want you to do, and you can do it back in your hometown. And I said, okay, let's do it. Let's figure out what's going on with me. I did the test. It's called a gastric emptying study. It's where you eat radioactive eggs, which do not taste great at all. And you had to have, I believe, if I'm correct, it was radioactive, like water, which does not sound good for your body at all. But it was what needed to be done. So I did the testing. She had put in the orders that she wanted the results right away to give us an answer to figure out what was going on and kind of get me back to living my life, because I was a teenager and I wasn't living like a teenager. So we got the test results back the same day, and she said, okay, I know what's wrong with you, but it is going to be hard to treat. Or specifically, there is no cure for it. So, of course, that made me emotional, trying to wrap my head around how do I go from being completely healthy and athletic to being sick and not being able to do anything. So she said, you have an illness called gastroparesis. It's where your stomach is paralyzed and you can't digest food like normal people. I say normals because that's kind of confusing, but for me, it's a normal person who can digest their food. Normal people digest their food within a day. As for me, it took days to digest what I was eating. So every time I was eating and it wasn't digesting, my body had to figure out a way for it to get out, which I know this is going to go into being TMI, but it's what comes along with gastroparesis, which meant I was constantly getting sick because my body needed to get rid of what was in it because it didn't know what to do with it. So I asked her, okay, what's the next step? She goes, okay, let's try some medicines to kind of get you stable enough to where I could eat if I wasn't in the ER constantly. And I said, okay, let's do what we need to do. We tried medicines. Nothing was working. I was still really low in weight and I couldn't keep anything down. Going into this, it was about to start the school year again. I couldn't go back because at this point we had decided that I needed to have a surgery for it, which is specifically a gastric pacemaker. It's like a pacemaker for your heart, but it works on your stomach and it helps try and convince your stomach to move like it should, so it digests your food. This surgery had to be done out in San Francisco, which is about an hour or two away from my hometown, and I didn't want to go that far, but it needed to be done for me to go back to school. It was really hard for me to agree that I couldn't go back to school, and it took a long time to get into that hospital because we had to go through insurance and I had to meet with the doctor. And then I finally met with the doctor and she had said she wanted me to go in, have a test done, and then have surgery the next day. And so I waited for insurance to approve that. Insurance approved it, scheduled it, and I was thinking, okay, I'm set to go. We're good. Figure this out. I have my surgery the day after, and soon we'll be able to get the pacemaker in. At least that's what I had thought was going to happen. I had to wean off medication because I was on medication at the time. I do have other illness. I have had other illnesses for quite a while now. And I was weaning off of it. One of the medications I thought I didn't have to wean off of until I think it was a week before my procedure was scheduled, they said, no, you need to get off of that medicine. So I had to wean off of it fast. And you're not supposed to wean off of that medication fast. So a time came around where it was time to prepare to go to San Francisco. And about 2 or 3 days leading up to it, I wasn't feeling good at all. I felt like 100 times worse. I was so tired because I felt sick. I didn't want to go. I thought, okay, I'm just stressed because I do not know exactly what's going to happen. Because at this time, it was up in the air as to 2 procedures that she could do. And so I said, okay, I kept trying to get into the mindset that I can do this. It's going to be fine. My mom was coming with me. My grandpa was coming with me. And we went out there, and I didn't feel good on the car ride up there. But still, of course, went through with it because I honestly didn't have a choice if I wanted to get better. So we get out there. I do the test. And they say, okay, you have to do another gastric emptying study. I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be easy. I can do this. I've done it before. It was completely different from the first time I've done it. This time you had to have radioactive eggs. You had to have toast. You had to have, I believe it was radioactive water. I cannot exactly remember. But I had to do that, and you have to eat it in a very short amount of time. And remind you, at this time, I couldn't keep down food. I was 95 pounds because I couldn't keep anything in. So them telling me I needed to finish this big amount of food in this short amount of time was so difficult. I became emotional because I kept saying, I can't do it. You guys are forcing me to eat, and I can't eat. I'm not hungry. Because I wasn't hungry. And so he goes, well, okay, eat as much as you can, and hopefully it's enough for the test. Like, okay. So I ate as much as I could, which wasn't a lot because I felt like I was going to be sick. Did the test. He was okay. It was just enough for us to see what we need to see. I said, okay, that's great. And he goes, okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Or the doctor would see me tomorrow for my surgery. I said, okay. So I stayed in San Francisco because there was no point in going all the way back home to my hometown and then driving back up again early in the morning. It was easier just to stay there. We stayed in San Francisco. That night, I still was not feeling good. I figured, okay, it's because of everything I had to eat, and I just wanted to sleep, but I couldn't sleep for nothing. Again, I attributed that to I'm just not feeling good, so I'm exhausted, but I'm also stressed. So we go through the night. I get up early in the morning. We get ready. We go to the hospital. If you've ever been to San Francisco, you know that there's like a lot of uphills. And it took I was completely like breathless because I was so tired. Didn't feel good. I couldn't eat. Even if I was hungry, I couldn't eat because you can't have anything before surgery. And I was just not feeling good. I get up there. I sign in. They say, okay, they'll call you back soon. 5 minutes, they call me back in and, kind of go over everything with me. And I say, okay, and they say, okay, get ready. The doctor and anesthesiologist will be in soon, and we will go ahead with your procedure. So I get back there. My mom's back there with me to help me, kind of get ready. And I had put my gown on. Okay, guys, this might start to get emotional for me. I'm going to try and keep myself together, but there was a lot that happened that I'm still not over. But I put my gown on. My mom had turned around for literally 2 seconds. I sat down on the hospital bed, and it went black for me. That was it. When I woke up next, I saw a bunch of doctors, nurses around me. Everybody's placing, like blood pressure cuffs on me. They're placing pulse ox monitors. They're doing blood work. Sorry if I repeat myself too, but so So they're doing everything. And when I woke up, I couldn't speak. And I was freaking out because I was awake one second, the next second, I had a bunch of people around me and I couldn't speak. Besides seeing the doctors and nurses, the first thing I saw was my mom, and she was across the room with, I can't remember if it was a nurse or a doctor, but they were kind of keeping my mom calm, telling her it was going to be okay, and that I was waking up, and they would kind of get it under control. And I was in tears, still couldn't speak. And when I finally could speak, they kept saying, okay, she's had a grand mal seizure. We need to get her down to the ER until we can get the results back for her blood work. And so when I finally could speak, I kept saying, I've never had a seizure. What are you guys talking about? And she goes, no, you did have a seizure. I go, no, I have never had a seizure, because a couple weeks before I had seen my neurologist, because again, that'll be in other videos why I see neurologists. But I had an MRI done and everything looked fine. So I didn't understand what they were talking about. My mom comes over to me and she goes, no, you did have a grand mal seizure. I was in shock. I kept saying, no, I didn't. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. So they finally explained to me what had happened. And I was still confused, and I kept asking my mom when I got down to triage in the ER what had happened. Because I told her the last thing I remember is sitting down. I don't remember what happened after that. So she explained it to me, and I kept saying, well, that doesn't make sense. Why did that happen? And she kept telling me, I don't know. They did the tests. We get downstairs. She calls my grandpa to come down there, or she goes and gets him, because he was upstairs waiting for me to go into surgery. And she calls my grandmother and my godmother and says, hey, she just had a grand mal seizure. We don't know if she's going to stay here in San Francisco at the hospital until they figure out what's wrong. Just so my family kind of knew what was going on, so that they were kind of updated, because they were expecting me to have surgery, not have a grand mal seizure. The blood work comes back and everything. They say everything's fine. And I say, okay, why did it happen though? I need to know. I'm the kind of person who needs to know why things happen. So I needed to know why that happened. And they said, well, we have no answers for you. Everything we looked at is fine. And so I just said, okay, what do we do next? They said, nothing. You're going to go home in a little bit, and you're going to meet with your neurologist. We already called your neurologist, and your neurologist kept saying that everything was fine on your MRI, so you're going to see him when you get back. I said, okay. At this time, I just wanted to go home, because I still could not wrap my mind around what was going on. I was scared to get in the car because, like I said, it's an hour, 2-hour drive back to my hometown. I was scared that I was going to have another seizure, because I think when you first have a seizure, your next expectation is to have another one, which wasn't exactly my case. According to some of the research that I was told and researched myself, because again, I'm a person who needs to know everything, was that if you have a grand mal seizure first, you're not likely to have another one. But again, in my head, I was scared I was going to have another one. I got home a couple days after that. I had met with my neurologist, and he did scans again. He was upset because they didn't do, it's a test called an EEG, and I believe that's what it's called. I may be getting that mixed up. But it's where they put all these stickers like all over your head and everything, and it kind of shows them what's going on if I'm having a seizure at that time. It has different tests that can be done to give them an answer. So he was upset that none of that was done, because now we missed out on what was going on in my brain when that happened. So we did MRIs. Everything came out fine. I did have an EEG done. I want to say a few weeks later, because it was Thanksgiving was like a few days after I had my seizure. And I didn't go because I was so scared I was going to have another seizure. I didn't want to leave my house in general, let alone that I had little cousins and I didn't want them to have to see me have a seizure in front of them. So at that time they were still younger. And I just said, I can't go to a family event. There is no way. So my mom stayed home with me. I had the EEG test done like a few days after Thanksgiving. And they said, we don't see anything. So I was like, okay, well, what caused it then? If there's nothing on my MRIs and nothing on, sorry if I keep wiping my lips. There's nothing that we can see that caused it. And again, I was frustrated because I had began to notice that my speech wasn't like it used to be. So there will be parts in my videos that you will hear me messing up or see me get frustrated. And that is because I still cannot speak correctly at times. And after all of that, I began to have tremors too. And those scared me because why was I having tremors after having a grand mal seizure? I didn't hit my head. There was no reason in my mind as to why that was happening now. So Christmas passes by. Actually, my birthday passes by first, and I do nothing for my birthday. I stay home because I don't want to go out still. It was still too close to after I had my seizure. Christmas rolls around. I didn't go to Christmas because, again, I was too scared that it was going to happen all over again. And again, I had younger family members who would be there. So I stayed home again with my mom. And I just, of course, opened my presents at home. I personally just felt better staying home. And so that's what I did. And at that point, I knew I wouldn't be able to go back to school because I was having so much difficulty with my speech. And I still had so much going on. I still had so many questions. But leading up until now, which I said I'm 23 now, I do still have problems with my stomach. After my seizure, I did see my previous gastroenterologist to go over what to do next. And she said, let's just leave it alone. Let's figure out what's going on with your seizures first, or the seizure that I had, not seizures. And we'll kind of go from there. So I said, okay. So we kind of just waited it out. And then it seemed like it had gotten better. I don't know if it's because I had a lot of stuff going on besides that. And I did gain weight. But that was because of a completely different reason. It wasn't because of my eating. And so we just went through it. And I said, okay, it's getting worse again. I need to go back. My insurance stopped me from seeing her. So I had to find a new gastroenterologist. I saw a new one. I said, okay, I want to go back to UC Davis. I want to have my surgery out there. So the doctor agrees and is sending me to UC Davis, which I will be going there in about a week. About a week. I'm sorry if I'm kind of getting that mixed up. But in a week, I will be going back to Davis to meet with a motility specialist, which is a doctor who does a gastric pacemaker, which is my goal to have, so that way I can eat and kind of, live my life, because I did miss out on my teen years because of it. And so far, those are my goals, is to get the test done and to hopefully get me to a better place than what I'm at, because I still have so much difficulty eating. Everything is still difficult to me. So that's pretty much all for now, guys. I'm sorry if it kind of sounded like I was rambling. I'm sorry if I kept looking around. I don't know why I do that, but I do that. So my next video will most likely be on my illness called IIH, idiopathic intracranial hypertension. Sorry, I can never say that right. And that will kind of give you guys an idea of how I talk about my weight gain, why my speech is still messed up, because it is not just because of my grand mal seizure, and a bunch of other stuff. I will break these down into different videos, and I will try and put it in a playlist that kind of gives you guys an idea of my chronic illnesses, and you guys can go back and click on that specific illness if you're looking for some information or you're curious. And you guys can message me or leave me comments. I will try and reply to them. Right now, I'm not putting up my Instagram or anything. I will put that up eventually. But for now, you can leave me comments. I'll try and answer them. You guys can ask me anything. I'm completely fine with answering questions. But yeah, that's it for now, guys. So I'll see you in my next video. Bye.